Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're talking WandaVision, Episode 6, an all-new Halloween spooktacular. Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, my name is Brent and I am your host today. So we're going to be talking about WandaVision Episode 6 and doing a review, but kind of guessing at what's going on. I thought this episode was fun. I didn't love it as much as Episode 5, which I ranted and raved about, but there's a lot to like here still. So thank goodness we're getting the cutting between storylines thing. Seems like from here on out we have 2 more episodes left. I believe there's 8 and this is episode 6. So, some of the episode is Wanda in the sitcom world, and then the other part is Darcy and Monica Rambeau and Jimmy Woo outside the Hex, as we call it. So lots to talk about here. Number 1, this is the Halloween episode, so this is the thing we'd seen in the trailers where Wanda's wearing her trademark costume from the comic books, from the 60s or 70s all the way through till I don't really know what she's wearing now, but it's pretty similar. She's got the big crown on her head that goes right here, and the jumpsuit and cape. In fact, I'll show you. This is what she was rocking in Avengers Disassembled here. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so yeah, this is like a flashback scene. She's going crazy in this book. But yeah, that's pretty much what she's wearing in this thing. And then you're looking at Vision and going, why does Vision look so strange, so weird? And it's because Vision is actually in his comics accurate costume as of, his classic look from when he first started, which is the green and yellow. That's right here with the red face. He's got the little Mind Stone at the top here as well, if you can see that. He had the shorts pulled up to his waist, and that's kind of like what this was doing here with the yellow boots and yellow cape. That's what Vision's looks like. And it wasn't until the movies came out that they kind of redesigned him, and they changed the colors a little bit, kind of toned him down. I mean, everything in the Marvel Universe is muted from the bright colors of the classic 4-color look from the Marvel 60s, comic books. And then you have Pietro in here in his classic costume, with the blue and the silver. Dang it, I lost the bookmark. Where did it go? Anyway, it's basically this look right here, but blue. And that's what Pietro is rocking here. As well as Tommy is rocking this look as well. And this explains why the kids get their costumes, right? So you got Billy, that's right here. Wiccan is his code name in the Young Avengers books. That is one of Wanda's sons, and Tommy is the one who shows up later on, and he's basically in a duplicate of his uncle's costume in this Halloween episode. But his comics accurate costume right here is green, and now it makes sense why it's green, because when Pietro first appeared, his costume was green, and then it evolved into that, just changed colors from green to that baby blue. So that's why he's rocking that same thing. But he's got the same powers as his uncle, as we saw at the end of the episode. We haven't really gotten into, what Billy's powers are. He just heard his dad in his mind. But basically, Billy, unless they change it, this could be different, basically has the same powers as Wanda. In the comics anyway, it's like hex magic or something like that. So they're all magicians kind of thing. So that's pretty much it. And it's fun to see this Halloween episode call back to the comics in such a way with these classic costumes. And this is the way that, before we had superhero movies and mass-produced costumes. I mean, we had some when I was a kid. You still had Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. But you did not have, maybe you had Iron Man. But all that kind of stuff looked as cheesy as that. Or if you had made your own homemade costume before the cosplay thing blew up, as it did in the last 15 years or so, and the 3D printing, and everybody got really good at making these foam core suits and shoulder things. However they make them now, it's incredible. But back when you asked your mom to make you a costume, she went and simplified it as much as she could, right? She bought you some shorts, made you a little jumpsuit and a little tie cape, and with the colors, and the costumes that Wanda and Vision are wearing are pretty It's reminiscent of what homemade costumes looked like back in the 80s and 90s. So, speaking of 90s, what sitcom world are we in? Did everybody recognize it? Because I did right away, as soon as the credits started. I was thinking maybe we were going to get a Full House reference. I thought that's what last episode was. Apparently it was Family Ties, right? I thought it was Full House, but I guess they're not directly going to reference the Olsen twins in this episode because Elizabeth Olsen is the younger sister of the Olsen twins from Full House, if you didn't know that already. This, if you don't know, was Malcolm in the Middle. That's right. That's why you had the little kid starting off the episode narrating to the camera, because Frankie Muniz, in the late 90s, early 2000s, had his show called Malcolm in the Middle. It was so funny. Not Jane Krakowski. I forget the actress's name. Her first name was Jane. And then you had the guy from Breaking Bad was the dad. Bryan Cranston was the dad on there, and you had some wacky brothers and stuff like that. And Malcolm talked to the camera. It was his show. And you had the little handwritten style of, introduction in the credits and the crazy zooms and all that in the intro sequence. And that immediately I was like, oh, this is Malcolm in the Middle. So we got a little bit of that towards the beginning, and it kind of shifted away into just a regular sitcom-y thing. But it was fun. Like, just a reference everybody got, And I think there's going to be a Modern Family reference later on. Like in the previous year's one where Wanda herself is talking to the camera. And I think it's Modern Family. I can't say for sure because A, we haven't seen the episode yet. And B, I'm not a Modern Family watcher. So I don't even know if I've seen a full episode of Modern Family at all, ever. So I may be out of the sitcom game. If they do Big Bang Theory or How I Met Your Mother, I'll get it. But I don't think we're going that way. Those aren't really like family sitcoms like these, everything else was. But you had a lot of really cool moments in here, costumes aside, which was my favorite part of the episode. I love that part. The whole thing in, Wanda talking to Pietro and like, why do you look different? I wouldn't want to be remembered of the past. Like, he's pointing out to Wanda everything that I speculated and, everybody else speculated last week, where she didn't want to be remember her dead brother. And you saw in the previously on WandaVision, you saw Aaron Taylor Johnson, who played Pietro in Age of Ultron, here get shot, like, to set up, like, hey, this is a different actor playing the same character on purpose. We recognize that. It's not one of these recastings where, oh, so-and-so said a nasty thing on Twitter and we have to fire them and recast them or whatever. Like, see The Flash next season, right? Like, Elongated Man made some terrible comments on Twitter that got unearthed, last season or whatever, and so they quickly fired him from the show, even though there's still 3 or 4 episodes, I think, where the Elongated Man is still supposed to take place. And apparently he had a whole arc. His character had a whole arc this season that now is no longer going to take place because they fired the actor and they have not decided to recast him yet, I believe. But yeah, so they're telling Wanda, like, hey, we know this guy looks different. Everybody in the outside Hex knows he looks different. And he's telling Wanda as well, I look different. Why do I look different? And I know you don't want to be brought up with bad memories, so that's why I look different. Like, he's pointing that out in their conversations. Another thing that I loved, and you might not have gotten this, was there was one moment where Tommy and Pietro ran off with their super speed, and they go, kick ass! And she goes, kick ass! And that was like right after that conversation of like, why do you look different? And that is funny because there is a movie based on a comic book, Kick Ass, right here. This is the comic book. Mark Miller, John Romita Jr., who worked for Marvel. They made a movie of this, if you don't remember. Jim Carrey was in the sequel, Kick Ass 2, but Nicolas Cage was also in theirs. This is where we found Chloe Taylor Moretz as Hit Girl. And Aaron Taylor Johnson, the first Pietro in the Age of Ultron movie, played the character of Dave Lizowski, something like that. He played Dave, who was Kick-Ass. His best friend in the movie was played by Evan Peters, who is now Pietro. So the line of Kick-Ass is just a kick-ass reference to all the fun comic book nerds like me who know that fact. And, we're gleefully laughing about how both of these two characters were in Kick-Ass together and are now playing the same character way back in Age of Ultron days. You know, the Kick-Ass was made before Age of Ultron. So when Age of Ultron came out and we had Days of Future Past come out with Evan Peters playing Pietro in the Fox X-Men universe, and then you had Aaron Taylor Johnson playing him in the Marvel universe, we were just kind of laughing there like, oh yeah, these two guys were in the same movie, and now we're actually referencing it in a meta way on the WandaVision show, just like we're referencing all these old sitcoms and stuff. So I thought that was really fun. I really enjoyed that little throwaway kick-out. Like, that doesn't mean anything to anybody unless you know about this, right? So I really enjoyed that reference. But yeah, I mean, there's things that happen in this episode, and I think most of the things that happened are these little throwaway funny things for comic fans with the costumes and the twins displaying their powers finally, and these meta conversations about the Kick-Ass reference or why you look different, or, you know, even the character like Pietro at the end. I found it was interesting that he's talking to Wanda specifically about how is she doing this, or he's not even mad because that he remembered getting shot, and then he heard her calling, and then he remembers showing up at the door in the last episode. So is this truly like Pietro's dead body? She certainly saw him like decayed when she looked back at him in the middle of that conversation, the way she saw a decayed Vision a couple episodes ago. I think episode 3 or 4. Episode 3, I think she just saw a decayed Vision. But it's interesting now that even Wanda is recognizing that she is in control. Whereas before, you know, I think before the last episode, we weren't sure if she knew she was in control. And now it was clear with last episode that outside the Hex she knew, but even inside the Hex, when she's underneath her own spell, now she's realizing that she is the one in control. And we saw that at the very end of the episode when Vision stepped out of the Hex and started decaying because the magic was like falling away kind of thing, and he was dying again. She expanded the scope of the Hex, and all of the sword agents got turned into a circus clowns and stuff. Darcy is chained to this, or not chained, handcuffed to the front of this Jeep because she was trying to help Vision. We don't know what's going to happen to her. We also have another hint of, like I said 2 episodes ago when we saw Monica Rambeau wake up and her x-rays were all white. I said, hey, we're going to establish her superpowers here, because why are her x-rays all white? Well, because light can't take pictures of light, right? Or it can, and that's what it's going to look like. So she's been through the Hex twice, as they pointed out, and now they've confirmed that her DNA has been rewritten twice. And that is a weird thing, that the DNA of all these people have been rewritten because of this Hex stuff. So that is very interesting. So I wonder if we're going to see a lot more people with powers come after this. So I think if she goes back in, I think the more she goes in and out of this Hex thing, the more and more we're going to see Monica Rambeau's powers display. Maybe we'll get it by the end of this series. I think she is becoming Photon or Spectrum, whatever they want to call her in the MCU, but that's her code name in the comic books, as I've said multiple times on this review series or whatever. So it's cool. We're getting there. As to how this affects the theories of the multiverse and stuff, that is still unclear. It's pretty clear that this is pulling more from Avengers Disassembled right now than it is from like the House of M storyline. I mean, House of M was basically like a sequel to this one, but the House of M one is the one everybody's been talking about beforehand, where Wanda changed the entire world through her magic because she was so overcome by grief after the events of this, when she remembered her twins were dead, and basically changed the entire world to where the mutants were in control, and everybody in the world was a mutant, and there were a small number of humans, which is like the flip-flop of what it was in the Marvel Universe before then. And then at the end of House of M, she utters the phrase, "No more mutants." So the speculation here was, if we're pulling from House of M, where Wanda goes crazy, maybe we're going to get mutants out of the end of this WandaVision series. This says season 1. I don't know if it's a season 1 or if it's a limited series. But I think actually we're pulling more from Avengers Disassembled, because this is where these illusions and stuff really are like planted. I mean, both of them were written by Brian Michael Bendis. His name's up here at the top. It's drawn by David Finch. House of M was drawn by Olivier Coipel. But it's in this book, like this book just starts out weird. You have Vision coming back from the dead. He was dead already. You have alien invasions out of nowhere. You have other characters coming back to life. She-Hulk on a rampage. All these weird things, and the Avengers are left puzzling what is going on. There's a bunch of Ultrons that show up here, Ultron robots, and that's terrifying in and of itself, and it's just bonkers from the very beginning. And what you find out at the end is that Wanda has gone mad because she's like kind of reborn her family here at the end, and then it's the revelation that she's in fact dead. And then it's like, Magneto takes her away, because in the Marvel Universe, Magneto is the father of Wanda and Pietro. And then that leads into House of M. But all these weird, visions and stuff like that is to me, more reminiscent of what happens in Avengers Disassembled than it is necessarily in House of M. I think the alternate reality angle maybe pushed people more towards the House of M way, but I think just the randomness and the way that things are happening, I think it's a little more disassembled in his House of M. Maybe it's a mixture of both, but this is truly the one where Wanda goes nuts, whereas if you read the House of M storyline, it's less about Wanda. I mean, this is as well, Wanda is kind of a minor character in both of them, which is really strange to talk about, because she's not really prominently in the books. She's at the very beginning and at the very end of this one. House of M is only really the very end, where you kind of talk to her and meet her and find out that she's the one behind it. So she's not the protagonist of either of these stories, which is weird. But she is the protagonist of this show, which is nice to see. Because, there haven't been that many, you can't name a great Wanda Maximoff story. You can name these, but is it really a Wanda Maximoff story? She's on the side of the cover. She's not Wanda Disassembled. It's Avengers book, But yeah, this Avengers Disassembled is the book where she is going mad, per se. Not necessarily House of M. So I think it's a little bit more of this. So, I don't know. Where we're going, it's hard to say. There's a lot of speculation online that, in the comics, Billy and Tommy are children that are created somehow through pieces of Mephisto's soul. Who is Mephisto, Brent? I've never heard that word before. Neither had I until I read Marvel Comics. So basically, in Marvel Comics, Mephisto is their kind of personification of the devil, even though he's not really Satan himself, per se. He's like a demon in hell. But they use him a lot, and so much that he's kind of the overlord or controlling demon of hell. And they never really get to the God Satan angle because they try and stay away from religion, but they're hearkening to it with this Mephisto stuff. So anyway, Mephisto is also the guy that Ghost Rider makes a deal with, to become the Ghost Rider, all that stuff. So apparently, 2 small pieces of Mephisto's soul were used to create the twins, Billy and Tommy, in the 80s when they were born. I don't remember if this is discussed at all in Avengers Disassembled. But the main revelation here is that Wanda remembers her kids because they had been wiped from her memory, and that's what makes her go nuts. I believe. It's been a while since I read this. But Pietro calls out to them in the trick-or-treating scene, "Go, devil's children!" And I wonder if that's a callback to that. Now, will that be the real reality in the WandaVision in the MCU show? I don't think so. That's too hard to complain. We haven't met Mephisto before. Why would we introduce him here? Some people were thinking that maybe he was the husband of Agnes, or the Agnes is maybe Mephisto, or something crazy like that. I don't think that's the case. All of this is still supposed to lead into, like I've said before, Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. We have confirmed that Wanda Maximoff, Elizabeth Olsen, is in Doctor Strange 2, which is called the Multiverse of Madness, and also that Doctor Strange is in Spider-Man 3, which doesn't have a title yet, but it is filming, and apparently every other Spider-Man is in that movie as well. So somehow this all will change and turn into a multiverse story, because right now it's not. Right now it's just a simple Wanda Madness story. So if we get there, I will be interested to see how they turn it around in 2 episodes and to quickly pivot from a magical madness angle, which is what we're doing now, into this weird multiverse angle, which will be the arc for these other 2 movies. Now, when we'll get to see those, who knows? I mean, one of them is filming, both of them I think are filming right now. If we're going to see them in 2022, 2021, I forget when Spider-Man 3 was supposed to come out. I believe it was originally slated for this year, but with everything being pushed, I think now it's in 2022. So, we will see if that actually turns out to be the case. It could all be BS. We don't know, and that's the fun about speculation. But I really did like this episode. Things are getting very, very ramped up. I'm interested to see who Monica Rambeau's guy on the outside is, her contact. I hope it's another Marvel character we've seen before. Maybe Tony Stark, or maybe it's Captain Marvel. Who knows? Maybe it's another cameo. We will see. But it's got to be somebody significant, right? Who else could it be? I don't know. Hopefully it's somebody cool, right? And not a, I don't think that the Hydra agent is coming back from the first couple Marvel movies. I don't think it's him. Is it Coulson? So, anyway. I mean, Nick Fury was up in the space with Skrulls and stuff. Are we connecting that with Sword? He's supposed to get his own show called Secret Invasion with the Skrulls at a later date. So, who knows? I'm interested to see who that is, but it's quickly shrinking on the field is shrinking. So I think where we're going to end up is Jimmy Woo, Monica Rambeau, and maybe Darcy, if her mind is still intact, are going to have to figure out how to get to Wanda, or Vision's going to do it, or a combination of those two. Because now that Sword is out of the picture and they're all, circus freaks and stuff like that in the scenario, in the Hex, they're going to have a lot less power. And it seemed like maybe they were the only ones that knew what was going on, unless they were communicating back up to the bosses at some point. But, I mean, you had this director of Sword there in the field talking to people, so I guess we'll find out next week. But this show is fantastic. I can't wait to see what happens. And then 2 weeks after this finale, we get Falcon and the Winter Soldier. If you didn't see the trailer for that, there was like a little snippet during the Super Bowl, but there's a full 2-minute trailer that I highly encourage you to go watch. It is fantastic. We will be also reviewing that show every week because that got me hyped. The whole song in that trailer is like, "Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?" And they showed these action shots, and they showed Falcon and Winter Soldier like sniping at each other in the staring contest. And when that ended, I was like, I am ready. I am ready. I'm so happy to have fun stuff to talk about with you guys. So, thank you guys for watching. This has gone on for long enough. Let me know what you guys thought of WandaVision Episode 6 down below. And we'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. It helps the channel grow. Thank you. We will see you next week.